I feel like the 90s was really when we took the hard turn, maybe with Elm Street actually, we took the hard turn into like urban legend rather than like folk horror, which
Yeah.
is kind of more relatable. It's one of those stories that everyone's got like a friend of a friend who this happened to, you know? It's like they're very easily tailored to be passed around the world. In the 90s, with the advent of like global communication and the internet, I feel like it became all like way more personal. And, you don't need to go to the Caribbean or to space anymore. It's like your
Yeah.
neighborhood, right? Happy Halloween, Kinolime. Meara here, over in Ireland, the ancestral home of Halloween. And I'm very pleased today to introduce you to a client and buddy of mine, Mr. Woody Bess, all the way over from California. Woody, how you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And could you kindly give us a little bit of background on, who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'm a filmmaker. I'm a huge horror fan, so I just finished my first feature film called Portal to Hell that will hopefully be out next year. And then I'm a writer, DP mostly. So I do everything, but I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, so what do you? It was a client of mine that we worked together recently on a project of his, and he is the most fantastic horror screenwriter you're going to come across. So remember the name Woody Best because you're going to be seeing it in a lot of credits in coming years and on movie posters. So I mean, Woody, I'd like to think that you are a face of the future of horror, and with it being Halloween, I thought, what better time and who better to talk about it with and talk about the entire history of horror as a genre. So today what we're going to do is we're going to go through decade by decade and we're going to give each other some recommendations on our favorite screenplays or films from that decade. That sound good with you?
Yeah, great.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to get us started then. I'm going to give us a 1940s recommendation, which is as early as we're going. We could go earlier, but I think in terms of I like to kind of look at things with available screenplays, and it's a bit of it's the Wild West when you go 1940 or earlier. But I'm going to start with 1943's I Walked with a Zombie, which is an incredible film and screenplay. It's written by Kurt Siodmak, I believe it's pronounced, but don't quote me on that, and Ardell Ray. It's an RKO Pictures movie. What I love about it so much is that I think it's one of the most um, influential horror movies of all time because for me it's the first one that really taps into both folk horror as like as a topic of study and thematic, meditation. It takes basically what's like a Bronte novel, like a Jane Eyre type situation. It puts it in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
It's about zombies, but the zombies are like a stand-in for like a colonial um like lingering effect basically, which is it sounds really odd, but it's so cool because it also takes place like 20 years before kind of what we know as like zombies existed. So it's so precocious. It's an incredible screenplay and film. It's like an hour and 5 minutes long, really short. I think it's probably free on YouTube if you haven't seen it, but
No,
I
I
couldn't
haven't.
recommend that one more.
I've never, yeah, I'm intrigued. And it's all Caribbean, like, all takes place in the Caribbean.
Yeah, all in the Or yeah, after the first 10 minutes, it's all in the Caribbean. It's
And
all kind of local casts in it as well. A lot of it's not in English. A lot of it doesn't have subtitles. It really throws you off the deep end. And it's the kind of thing that could feel kind of like exploitative or like being the 1940s. I think you could
yeah,
very easily feel weird about how it's presented, but it's very respectful. It's very kind of like we're actually the strangers in this situation, and it takes, yeah, like I say, folk horror in something that, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about Midsommar when we get to the 2010s,
yeah.
but that kind of planting you as a fish out of water in a new situation is kind of that's half of what horror has been for like nearly 100 years. So I wanted to give a big shout out to I Walked with a Zombie. Great poster as well. I don't know if you'd like movie posters at all. I
Yeah.
really I just bought a new house and I'm so excited to put up all these movie posters on my wall. So I Walked with the Zombies got to be up there. Especially the
That is a great
Criterion
poster.
Collection. The Criterion Collection released a copy of it not so long ago, and yeah, fantastic poster. So that's my 1940s suggestion. How would you feel about kicking us off with a 1950s suggestion?
Yeah, 1950s. So this one's like kind of interesting because like it's been done a lot, and it's actually kind of interesting of like where the States is as a country every time they adapt it. But Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the original
Sure.
first adaptation, is kind of like this like peak Red Scare kind of like metaphor of like we were so terrified of like communism and like it's communism and like kind of like this perfect pod people, like everyone, perfect society against like American individualism. And I just like think the first one, like all of them are great because they all kind of like reflect like a different period. Because like by the time they get to the most famous, like Donald Sutherland, it's almost the opposite, where it's like people who don't fit into like American consumerism. But like in the 1950s, it's you know we have to be individuals. That's what makes us Americans versus like these pod people that have no emotion, have no anything. It's just like a great paranoid film. If you haven't seen the first one,
So, when do you think that it became so commonplace for horror to be, serve as a metaphor? Like, if we tried to pinpoint that, do you think that it's always been there, or do you think that, I mean, for me, the 50s was very much a time where metaphor kind of bloomed as kind of what horror is about?
yeah,
Kind of, and would you feel like, Invasion of the Body Snatchers is like a quintessential sort of example of that?
yeah, because like I think like I don't know, especially like those periods where like you weren't allowed to do like to do certain things like or like there was kind of the Hayes guidelines of like the decency guidelines, so like you had to like work in metaphor, and like horror's always kind of been I don't know like I guess like a little bit more free, like maybe because people haven't historically taken it as seriously as like a drama, like you can kind of get away with being a little bit more subversive.
Yeah. Would you say then it pushes the envelope a little more than kind of other genres, would it be your opinion?
I think so. I think definitely like you have a little bit more freedom to kind of, you know, do what you want.
Absolutely. And that's what I think we love about it and why there's so many like trailblazing screenplays and films on this list. That's a really good shout. My pick for the 50s, I went with House of Wax, 1953.
Yeah.
It's a Crane Wilbur kind of really. It's completely the opposite of I Walked with a Zombie, which is like understated. House of Wax
Yeah.
is like garish, like Technicolor, 3D effects. Like someone probably spits on you in the cinema while you're like watching the movie. It's like very very gross. And it's kind of, yeah, it's about a guy who creates this wax museum of kind of like a Madame Tussauds type situation, and it could be really, again, really kind of nasty and in your face, which
Yeah.
is what it sounds like. But there's a surprisingly complex story. It's kind of like a Frankenstein sort of, but instead of an obsession, with potential and creating life, it's like creating mimicry of life, and it's kind of shows that line is very, it's like a lot slimmer than you'd think it would be. And it's
Yeah.
Vincent Price, obviously, who is like the face of horror movies and a lot of the Hammer horror stuff. So yeah, that's got to be up there for me. I think you got this one though. I think that, yeah, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, it's been so influential, and I bet a lot of the films on this list will kind of be inspired directly or indirectly by that. So yeah, I think you won the 50s, my friend.
How does have you seen the remake of House of Wax?
Say that again.
Have you seen the remake of House of Wax?
I've not. It's 2005. It's I mean, it didn't get very good reviews at the time. I mean, I was
No.
only a kid, but I've never bothered watching it. Is it worthwhile?
It's like it's got its mo so like well I mean we'll get to this when we get to like the early 2000s, but early 2000s is kind of like this wild period of horror where like it's like just
Right.
gross and like give me like yeah, it does have its moments though. It's kind of got a cool world.
For sure. All right. So, 1960s, do you have something to lead us with?
Yeah, I mean it's going to be like a pretty expected choice, but like the original Night of the Living Dead, like
Romero.
incredible, yeah, like incredible film, and then also like one of the greatest indie films ever made. Like they made the thing for like 100 grand in like Pittsburgh, next to nothing. It makes like I think 30 million at the box office, so it's like the most one of the most successful like independent films, and also just like one
For
of the
with
best.
Paranormal Activity, right?
Yeah, yeah, like just crazy. And then like there's so many choices they make that are just interesting, but it's also like people locked in one house. It's still people are still making those types of films today because it just like works.
Yeah, that scene where they're kind of they realize that they're being surrounded on all sides, and they're
Yeah,
running from one side of the house to the other is so good. It's like it really is a screenplay. It's like a masterclass in suspense and feeling overwhelmed as well. Like
yeah,
those ones where you've got the screenplay in your hand and you kind of don't realize until you turn the page that there's like indents from your fingers because you're like gripping it so tightly. It's
yeah.
yeah, what a yeah, great choice. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna counter you with that. I mean, again, super iconic. My personal favorite of the 60s came right at the start. It was 1960, Leo Mark's Peeping Tom.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen this one. It's a really weird, it's kind of, this is way more psychological horror than most of the
Mhm.
horror on this list. But basically, it's about a guy who gets a camera, just a film camera, which he uses for kind of magazine photographs, and it's about voyeurism and kind of what becomes kind of trying to capture. It begins as trying to capture beauty and trying to capture moments in time, and then kind of he begins to understand, like death is this beautiful, fleeting thing, and begins shooting images of dead people, and that leads into killing people in order to take photos of them. It's super, super um, unnerving. Again, it's another great screenplay, maybe even slightly better than the film itself, the screenplay, but
Yeah.
super unnerving and again really precocious. A lot of my picks here I've chosen because of how influential they've gone on to become. They may not have been like box office hits at the time, but they've really left like so many fingerprints on even Peeping Tom. Like it's got you can see it in something like a Zodiac, Fincher's Zodiac, or a Nightcrawler. It's very
Mhm.
much kind of this psychological horror where you're actually on the side of like what's really like the bad guy. The bad guy is the protagonist, and I think again that was so revolutionary at the time. So I don't know. We'll have to leave it to see what the viewers and the people in the comments have to say about which
Yeah.
of those picks is better. I mean, yours probably more influential, but mine's a sleeper hit.
Which film would you put like Peeping Tom or Rear Window?
Oh no, Peeping Tom. No,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's still like there's a whimsy to Rear Window. I think about
Yeah.
him looking at people through the lens where you feel a little bit bad about it, but you're also kind of you're watching a mystery unfold, and you feel like very justified in watching what is taking place. Whereas Peeping Tom is so invasive and
Yeah.
uncomfortable. Like it really gets under your skin. So very hard to compare. Actually, it's a good point. I should probably do like a side by side analysis of them at some point. But Peeping Tom, and again, another great poster. I'm such a sucker
Yeah.
for a poster, man. And yeah, Peeping Tom's up there for me. That's going in my new house also. All
Nice.
right.
Do you want to start with the 70s?
You want me to start?
Yeah, you start. You start.
Okay, I've got two choices here. Okay, I think I have to go for Alien. Alien is so good, and I think it's underrated because at the time it was pitched as like it's Jaws but in space, which Jaws. I mean, great movie. There's so much like whimsy to Jaws that like I find it difficult to consider it a straight horror.
Yeah.
But Alien is like it's like the top of the pile for sci-fi and horror. It's like two in one. The way that it unfolds, you don't really know who your protagonist is for so long. the
Yeah.
antagonist isn't a person or a monster. It's just like this thing. It's like a force of nature. I think the fact that Alien has been so enduring in a way that other horror hasn't. Just is really testament to Dan O'Bannon's script, which I
Yeah.
think he had to really fight. Also, I don't know if you know about this, but he got that taken off him, and then it was rewritten, and then the two guys who rewrote it got like the WGA credit at first, and then he had to like fight to get it back or whatever. And just,
Oh,
I
I
mean,
didn't
you
know
and
that.
I are
Yeah.
both writers, Woody. Can you imagine how
Yeah.
it would feel to write something as incredible as Alien,
It,
and then you don't
yeah.
get credit for it? So he did, thank God, eventually got it back. But yeah, I think there's a little bit of empathy for me there as a writer with Dan's plight. So
Yeah.
that's probably going to be my 70s pick personally. What about you?
That was my I
Mhm.
I just think like there's a reason like we're still watching alien movies and shows now, and like it's honestly like it's a pretty like simple like direct horror, but there's so much world building he put into it with like the companies running the world is just kind of like alluded to, and like shares their currency, and like now
Mm.
like with Alien Earth they've like built like a whole plot just based off that one thing he just threw into a script. And then like even like the mechanics of the alien are so weird, but like
Yeah.
so specific. And like even like the allusion to the engineers and like kind of like the like space jockey that we used to call it, and like kind of like there's just so much like depth to the world, and you're just seeing like like the horror part of it, but like it's all there and it's all so interesting, and it's like such a cool kind of like building a universe, and then seeing like this tiny little part of it is just such an interesting way to make film or write a screenplay. And it's like still like why it's I think in part like it's a great monster, but like that's part of the reason it lasted is like there's so much depth to the world he built.
Say neither of these are on my list in any shape or form, but I actually love Prometheus. I know it's
Yeah.
pretty unpopular, and
No, I
I've
love it.
just finished Alien Earth, which I think is also kind of mixed online, but I really like that as well. I'm pretty simple. I love, give me like a
Yeah.
weird alien in like a grimy box and like a greasy like corridor, and I'm there. I'll go and see it until I expire.
Yeah, Prometheus, like I still like don't get like why like I was like, damn, like this like the cast, like the like kind of like just the ideas in it of like the opening is like this thing sacrificing itself to make humanity. It's like that's like 10 films right there. It's just
So
like
crazy,
and then Alien Earth is like great because like they're kind of that eyeball monster in the sheep is like one of the best
freaky.
images. Yeah, and it's just staring and it's just like waiting, and like
I think
they've
it's
kind of like
time.
realized like okay, we've seen the xenomorph enough. Let's like kind of expand and see what some of the other inhabitants
Yeah,
of
I
the
mean,
alien.
it's in an infinite universe. There's potentially, infinite horrible things that will,
Yeah,
chop you up, and so yeah, for sure. That's yeah. I mean, shout out to Alien Earth. I think, yeah, God, hope it gets a second series because there's a lot of unanswered questions. But I mean, this all comes back to Dan O'Bannon, what originally he called Star Beast. He sat on it as a spec script for 8 years, I think, before the Star Wars hype made sci-fi cool. And God bless them because yeah, here we are, like what, nearly 50 years later, and still so enduring. So
yeah,
I think we're in agreement then. Alien is kind of 70s. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. I want to give a quick shout out to The Wicker Man as well, 1977, Anthony Schaefer. I'm British, and it's got such a. I think it's so influential as a British film. It's got such a special place in my heart. Um, and again, kind of going back to I Walked with a Zombie and all the way up to Midsommar, it's this like folk weirdness of just like I don't understand what's happening, but these people obviously do, and I don't want to like get involved, but I can't let it slide. And yeah, Wicker Man also, that's gotta be a close second for me. All right, I want to hear your 80s picks because God, the 80s has got to be maybe the strongest decade
Yeah.
ever for horror. So I I've got three that I could go with here, and I'm still
Yeah.
undecided. So let me hear yours first, and then
Like
I'll work out what I'm doing.
it's probably like my all-time favorite film. I watch it multiple times a year. The Thing, like John Carpenter, Keith David, even like the reboot that uses like CGI, like the original Thing, like the practical effects, like the kind of
Second to
just
none.
peak. paranoia, like the set-in, like everything about it is just like perfect. And and it was like wildly unpopular when it came out. I
Right.
didn't actually know. I was like reading about it. Like people called like Carpenter a pornographer of violence, and he almost like quit filmmaking. And it
Wow.
basically took like almost like 10 to 20 years before people like were like, oh no, the thing's actually like great.
Thank
Yeah,
goodness it eventually got the credit it deserves.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I could again, I couldn't agree more. I mean, that was one of my three picks. I mean, I might pick something different for the '80s just because I
yeah,
think I'd love to hear you argue for the thing. Because
yeah,
um, guys at home, Woody recently recommended me this bizarre story, which is it's like the thing, but told from the perspective of the thing, and it
yeah,
arrives on Earth, and it like doesn't understand that humans are like autonomous because previously, where it's been creatures are all like I don't know, not symbiotic. They're kind of like a hive mind, or they're capable of splintering and
yeah.
reattaching. So, like, obviously, you're a super fan. You've gone down the rabbit hole of,
I have,
the
yeah.
thing fan fiction, basically.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, I'm going to struggle to argue with you, but I might go. I might put a Nightmare on Elm Street in the ring as well. You know, as much as I love the thing, Nightmare on Elm Street, I think it was one of the first horror films that I watched, and this was back when you could watch horror movies on YouTube in like 2005, 2008. They'd be split into 12 parts because you could only upload like 10-minute videos at a time, and sometimes one of them would get taken down because they'd have a song in it, and you just have to like fill in what happened for the last 10 minutes. Um, I really love Elm Street. It's not been a great franchise beyond kind of the first one, but so weird, so different, and really kind of taking the like super popular slasher genre and managing to make it into something more like, ethereal, like beyond the planes of reality, and kind of what you do in life carries over into dreams, which happens to all of us, but then what happens in dreams carrying over into real life, which is a scary thought as well. Super iconic antagonist design. Really capable and competent character in Nancy. I really
Yeah.
love Nancy as a character. Um, and yeah, great music. The sound of the claws on the pipes in the boiler room, just in my brain forever. Um, yeah, what are your thoughts on Elm Street?
No, it's like a great like of like what if you could just die in your dreams and how fucked up would that be? And like it's kind of like anything that gets like when we're asleep we're safe, right? Like it's like kind of like such a core part of like I'm in my bed, I'm safe. It's the safest place in theory, and like it just flips that on its head. So it's like just a great premise in terms of like you know what's supposed to be safe is not, and like that's kind of enough to make a great horror film.
For sure. And I guess yeah, it's similar. It's got some similarities to the thing in that you're isolated and you should feel safe in this environment, and
Yeah,
it takes that away from you. And yeah, I mean, look, I don't think I can probably argue on the thing. I think you win the '80s.
the
I
same
do love Elm
works.
Street,
Yeah,
but yeah, shout out to was it Bill Lancaster who wrote the thing? I'm pretty sure. Yeah, great screenplay.
yeah,
It's a remake, which nobody seems to know.
yeah.
The thing from another
1950s.
world.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it was based on a novel. So, next time someone's like, "Oh, they're remaking this," it's like, well, they remade the thing and it paid off. So,
yeah.
um, yeah, that's a great choice, and probably the snowiest entry on this list. I would say there's not a lot of snowy horror films. You ever think about that?
Yeah, I love a good snowy horror. Like there's like it's kind of you're trapped in one location and like this snow is like the best. You can't leave. It's just the snow and cold.
Snowed in. Yeah, I guess that maybe makes it kind of relatable to people living in snowy places as well, and
Yeah,
scarier again. But all right, okay. So I'll get us started on the '90s. Now,
yeah,
I think the '90s is probably the decade I struggled the most with. I think there's a lot of bad '90s horror, and
yeah,
something that's really interesting as well so far is that from the '40s right up to the '80s, for 40 years, I feel like we were kind of mostly doing like folk horror stuff, which is to say it's about like a new place and something happening in that place, and it's kind of related to like a mythology or a legend or something of that sort. But I feel like the 90s was really when we took the hard turn, maybe with Elm Street actually, we took the hard turn into like urban legend rather than like folk horror, which
Yeah.
is kind of more local. It's like a little more relatable. It's one of those stories that everyone's got like a friend of a friend who this happened to. It's like they're very easily tailored to be passed around the world. In the 90s, with the advent of like global communication and the internet, I feel like it became all like way more personal, and um it could happen the next town over to you like way easier. You don't need to go to the Caribbean or to space anymore. It's like in your
Yeah.
neighborhood, right? So I mean, I think that that was like was most interesting from the 90s and into the 2000s. That's kind of while I was kind of reading up for this was something I found. But that being said, Candyman I feel like is maybe like a quintessential like urban legend, right?
Yeah.
It's right down to the fact of like say this 5 times and he shows up behind you is like the type of thing that like kids are like, oh, I could do that. Like, oh, I'm gonna stop it 4 times. We'll see if this guy will say it 5 times. And
Yeah.
it's got like this like blossoming mythology, which I think is really really cool.
Yeah.
I think it's a really strong screenplay. Again, it's another one of these that I'm like, is this actually stronger than the film? In the writing, it's Bernard Rose was the
Mhm.
writer, and I'm not from America, and I'm not kind of clued in on things as much as you are. But I mean, from my understanding of what how kind of Chicago is divided, and kind of the race relations, and tying this into like American history and kind of like contemporary, I don't know what you'd call it, like social economics or whatever,
Yeah.
was kind of super interesting and like pretty brave. Like it kind of pushed the boat out a little
Ahead of
bit.
its time for the
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and just kind of like at the end, it's like a guy with a hook for a hand and a trench coat, but it manages to be like terrifying. Like it's
Yeah.
genuinely really really scary. Great performances and just making use of like what's available to you in terms of like it's a college campus and like kind of crappy like I don't know what you call them like apartment blocks or tenement
Yeah.
housing or whatever. And yeah, it feels so real. I love it for that.
Was it just a different setting than you normally see in horrors of like usually like the cities, there's too many people, it's always like the suburbs, and now we're like in the city, and like still to this day I don't repeat shit in the mirror. I will not say Candyman 5 times or Bloody Mary. Like I just
Not worth
won't
it.
do it. No, it's not. Why bother? Like you don't get anything out of it. There's nothing but pain there. No, it's a great yeah, Candyman's great. Obviously Tony Todd's one of the best horror icons there is.
So what's your 90s pick?
This one is also like you're probably for all the reasons you laid out, horror kind of returning to like urban legends. I'm going against that. But there's like a lot of like Silence of the Lambs comes in the 90s, obviously like Oscar
Oh
winning.
wow, yeah.
I don't know,
Didn't even
like
consider that.
yeah, I mean like kind of more like thriller than like a traditional horror, but like still like probably a lot of people consider it one of few
Yeah.
horrors to like win the Oscar, but I'm going the opposite way. I'm going with a film that, for whatever reason, I just love. I think it's like hilarious, but Event Horizon. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
It's just
Interesting. Yeah. I don't think that's one
batshit.
that even crossed my mind when I was
It
looking at
shouldn't. It shouldn't. But it's like it
it.
does for me because like it's just Sam Neill, who like great actor, just
Yeah.
going nuts. And like this is like after his like very subdued Jurassic Park, like everything he's done in his career, and all of a sudden he's naked, just beating the shit out of Lawrence Fishburne because their ship is going to hell, and it's just like one of
So
the most
weird.
wild, weird '90s films. I'd highly recommend if you haven't seen it. There's
I
some
know I
like,
have seen it. And do you feel like it was like a role that was almost made for Nick Cage? Like the fact that
yeah,
it isn't Nick Cage is so weird. Like, and it's so much
yeah.
better for it. As much as I love Nick Cage, but that like unhinged freak, like who would have thought Sam Neill would be the guy to play him?
Well, that's like the funny part is because like it's like Sam Neill like coming off of like very successful Jurassic Park and like
Yeah,
and then he's in Event Horizon. It's like, what? Like, what are you doing? But like, so much better because he's got like so much like gravity or like weight, and like he's doing this role that's like ridiculous. But yeah,
Very, yeah, very like interesting, like high concept sort of idea as well. Like if you kind of sold me the log line, or maybe even like a like a treatment of like 10 pages or whatever,
yeah,
if I like filled that out, you'd get nothing like what the film is actually like. It's one of those ones
yeah,
where an elevator pitch, a log line, a synopsis cannot sell you on what that film is. It's so
yeah,
like balls to the wall crazy. Yeah, so I
yeah,
mean, I got respected for that. That being said, I'm winning the '90s. I think
yeah, yeah. No, no,
fight me
you're.
on it if you want.
I agree. Yeah,
I think Candyman's got to take that one home.
yeah,
All right. Oh, so it looks like we're into the 21st century. Um, all right. So 2000's very weird because to me this feels so segregated into like pre and post 2005, like more than
yeah.
any other decade. Now that being said, I've gone for 2000's Ginger Snaps. If you've seen this one,
I've not seen Ginger Snaps.
it's yeah, it flew under the radar. It's a great screenplay by Karen Walton. There's two screenplays available for it online. There's the 96 draft and the 98 draft. The 96 draft is like pretty good. But the 98 draft I love because it's such a lesson on like killing your darlings and how simpler can be better.
Yeah,
And it's this story basically, and it's crazy that it hadn't been done like meaningfully before Ginger Snaps, but it uses like lycanthropy. I always get that wrong. Lycanthropy. I don't know how you say it, but
yeah.
werewolves.
Werewolves. Yeah,
It takes werewolves and uses them as a allegory or metaphor for adolescence. Coming of age, getting your first period, and just like female rage in general, which is
nice.
so interesting. Now,
Yeah,
truth be told, the film doesn't hold up super well. There's some ropey effects in there. I think the performances are actually kind of weird, to be honest.
okay.
Like they're I read this before I saw it. Incredible screenplay. The film is like pretty good. But I think it could have been done better. But just like how has no one ever been like, oh gee, once a month when there's a full moon, oh gee, once a month, like, I have
Yeah,
my period. Like, how did that take like until the year of our Lord 2000 for someone to be like, I should write a film about that? Like, seems kind of crazy to me.
yeah,
But to the best of my knowledge, it's the first female screenwriter on this list as well. And I think, yeah, definitely worth celebrating that, like, into the
yeah,
2000s, horror opened up in like a lot more directions, kind of with the digital age, and it kind of became way more accessible for people to just make their films, like as
yeah,
well as the screenplays, to just be like, yeah, I'll shoot that. So I think, yeah, very like interesting time
yeah.
for filmmakers of, all creeds.
No, for sure. Yeah. Early 2000s is kind of like a tricky one because like there's a lot of films like I adore that came from that, like Shaun of the Dead, Jennifer's Body, like,
Sure.
and well, Jennifer's Body I think is late 2000s, but like when me and my fiance are like trying to figure out which film to watch and we see there's a horror film in the 2000s, we're like, oh, 2007, like we know it's going to be fucked up and it's going to be like hyper gory for no reason. And like, so like I'm going to go with like the original Saw because like it
Great show.
encapsulates this period. And like, it was so influential. They like basically made seven of those things
Right.
within the 2000s. Cause the first one though, like actually a good screenplay, a good mystery, a good like locked room kind of like thing, but like also like I still feel like we're like making these kind of Saw-esque films because of like how influential that was. Like I feel like I'm also like I don't know exactly when it came out, but The Sixth Sense is somewhere in here. Like twists, like we all want
It's not
twists.
90s.
Like
I feel like it's so
is it
90s, the
90s?
Sixth Sense. I don't know.
The
I could
Sixth
have,
Sense I think is 90s. Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah. No, you're right, but it's funny. I mean, Saw, kind of, The Ring. I'm thinking like early 2000s, the Ring, the American remake. I think the first Paranormal Activity snuck in late 2000s
Yeah, I think
as
it's
well,
2009.
and then all the Final Destinations. I don't know, actually, maybe they're late 90s. I couldn't tell you for sure, but yeah, there's so much of them which are kind of just like wanton violence
Yeah.
almost, and it kind of like doesn't really mean that much. It's kind of just an experience. But um, look, I think I'll give you 2000s because I think yours epitomizes kind of the landscape better than mine does. And also, of everything on this film, Ginger Snaps is the worst poster. Like, it's not a good poster.
Oh no.
Um, whereas the Soul one is like pretty memorable. I think.
Let me
There's definitely trends around it. Yeah, it kind of sucks. It looks like a made for TV movie or like something Joss Whedon directed. Uh, it's
gonna
not.
watch Ginger Snaps. I'm actually excited to see.
Yeah, it's good. I'll send you the script if you're interested for sure.
Yeah, please.
Okay, all right. Now, this is maybe the toughest. I mean,
Yeah.
look, I don't know how
2010s
old you are,
is
Woody, but like 2010s was kind of like peak. I'm a teenager. I'm watching everything that comes out. So I've seen so many horror movies.
yeah.
I say I was a teenager. By 2019, I wasn't. I'm getting old fast. But yeah, I mean, look, I watched the most horror movies during this decade by a long shot.
Mhm.
And kind of my friends were also at an age where they didn't have a lot to do and had disposable income just to go and watch stuff. So I've dissected these movies way more than any other decade by some way. So again, I've got two here that I could pick. I want to hear yours first, and that might help me decide.
No, there's like so 2010s I think is like where we've kind of entered this like new golden age of horror. Like there's so many films that probably should get it. Like Get Out, obviously one of the most influential, like incredible screenplays, or Hereditary. For me, like I'm going with It Follows because like no film has fucked me up more than It Follows. I like remember specifically, like I was like in I think my 20s when I saw it, and I still had nightmares for like 2 weeks. It was like in the movies, and like we were going to see some comic book film, and it had like sold out. And then we are like, all right, we'll just go see Follows. And like I was like front row in the movie theater. And like, holy, it's such like a simple premise if you haven't seen it. Like it sounds dumb, but it's about a sexually transmitted ghost.
Seen it, and it's on my list as well. So I think
Yeah.
we're going to agree on the 2010s. But yeah, please, for anyone that hasn't seen it, yeah, please tell them a little bit more about it.
No, yeah. So it's like the premise, like it sounds ridiculous, but it's basically like about a sexually transmitted ghost. So like you have sex with someone, and like whoever you sleep with, they're next. And, like wherever you are, it is following you, and it can look like anyone. It usually looks like someone who's just been like sexually assaulted, and no matter where you go in the world, it's just walking towards you in a straight line, and it's not fast. Like it's not particularly like smart, but it's not dumb. But like it's just walking towards you. No matter what you do, like no matter where you go, it's just slowly coming for you. And like what makes the film so great is like it's one of the few horror films where like you're never safe. Where like they'll just like frame a shot, and there will be somebody walking like 40 yards away in the background, but like as an audience you're just on the edge of your seat because it's like that could be it, that could be like it coming. And like there's still like that shot in the bedroom where the giant, like it just kind of leans in, that like
He
once
like
like
7 foot plus, right? He's
yeah,
huge.
yeah, and he just kind of like slowly leans in. And like the other part is like if you're it, you're the only one that can see it. So your friends can't really help you.
People back up the chain can still see it as
Yeah,
well,
no,
though, right?
sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of like it's an interesting film because like it never really like expresses like point to like or like kind of like it's not like anti-sex at all. It's because like the only way to get rid of it is to kind of sleep around. And like it's just kind of like this is fucked up. It's like
It's a
watching these kids. Yeah.
it's a very very clever inversion of the horror trope where like usually the promiscuous girl is the first to be killed. I'm looking
Yeah.
at you, anything by Wes Craven.
Yeah.
And then usually the kind of like virginal sort of girl is the one who becomes the final girl at the end, in some shape or form. So yeah, it's not like anti sex at all. Very, very interesting choice. And yeah, I agree. I had two on here for the 2010s. I think It Follows is my favorite film, but not my favorite screenplay.
Mm.
I just did an analysis for Kinolime on It Follows, and I could only give it a 3.5 out of 5 as a screenplay. But I give it a 5 out of 5 as a film. And I think
Yeah.
that the suspense that David Robert Mitchell, who wrote and directed, manages to take from the page onto the screen is like incredible. He punched it up so much, and what a soundtrack as well. Whenever I'm writing anything that's even a little bit spooky or suspenseful, I blare that soundtrack in my ears, and it kind of gets me to lock in like so hard. And yeah, such great performances. Something else I love about it as well is kind of this like feeling of like being kind of left behind and forgotten. There's like this,
Yeah.
this vibe of like it's an Indian summer. It says in the screenplay like all of the protagonists' friends have like gone away to college. It's set in like Detroit, but
Yeah.
like what time period is really unclear. Like all the TVs are like showing like black and white cartoons, but then one of the girls has like a futuristic phone, and the
Yeah.
cars are kind of
The
80s,
shell
and the
phone.
music.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's weird. And it has that kind of like John Carpenter sort of vibe of like, like an 80s Carpenter movie, like even right down to the kind of the ending of the like,
Yeah.
I thought things were fixed, but are they? Yeah, and the kind of the kitschy sort of soundtrack. Yeah, it's a fantastic, fantastic film. I've seen it maybe 5 or 6 times. I rewatched it with my wife, who hates horror movies, but
Nice.
sometimes what I have to do is I have to get her to read the Wikipedia plot so she familiarizes herself with it, and then I can be like, okay, this is a scary part coming up, and she can watch like this. But
Nice.
yeah, she had a really good time despite not liking the genre. So
Yeah.
that's usually like a pretty good marker of like if it's a truly good film, because she loves The Thing, she loves The Shining, So I yeah. Now, while we're on the 2010s, I got to give two quick shout outs. Yeah, one to Midsommar, which I know you mentioned Hereditary. I would argue now, when I have clients kind of and they come to me about like, I want to punch the script up or, concerns about it, everyone always references Midsommar as a film.
Hmm.
And I think that it's got to be up there with probably the most influential horror movie of the 2010s, because it's all I ever hear about is
Yeah.
people love that film and that screenplay. And it's not my favorite, but it's near the top. And I gotta say, like, it's such an economical screenplay as well. And like, I don't really care for as much for where Ari Aster has gone career wise post Hereditary and Midsummer, but I mean, he knows how to write some
Yeah.
weird, sad people, and yeah, definitely felt like an evolution for horror, right?
Yeah. Midsommar is like because like when it first came out, well, like kind of like you have like I had the expectations of Hereditary, which I think is like kind of a pretty modern masterpiece, and like Midsummer like grows on you. Where like the first time you watch it, you're like, it's not like okay, like it's not like that, and then like the more and more you like see it, the more like terrifying, cultures, different culture, like kind of like it's just like a very well done. Like he does characters very well.
I like most about it, it's just the fact, and this is something that's kind of more apparent on the screen than it is on the page, but it's all just in daylight. It's like a
Yeah.
perpetual daytime. And, even something like we were saying, like there's not many snowy horror movies like The Thing, but even then, it's like it's nighttime sometimes,
Yeah.
It's like, and that's typically where the scary stuff happens.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's daytime the whole time, but it still leaves you with such a feeling of dread is like really just a cool,
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah, so that's coming in at second for me as like an influential film slash screenplay. But that's tough. I mean, look, so yeah, I think we're in agreement on It Follows taking the top spot for the 2010s.
Yeah. There's Cabin in the Woods too. I forgot. Yeah.
Right.
Great period for horror.
All right. So then we've got the 2020s. So we've only got 5 years to go on here.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's really tough to think about how like influential something will be when it's like 5 years old or less, right? They had a really great conversation on the podcast last week about One Battle After Another and is it the best movie of the 21st century, which is crazy to me because I mean, I loved it, but I haven't made my mind up yet. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I think it takes years to kind of see how the dust settles. But so I'm going to go for quite a controversial pick, I think. And I'm
Hmm.
going to go for We're All Going to the World's Fair, which is a 2022 movie written by Jane Schonbrun. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it.
Did she also do I Saw the TV Glow?
Yes,
Yes. Okay.
certainly.
The first show. Yeah.
Yeah, I do like the. So I saw the TB Glow, but I don't know if I'd consider it horror. Really,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But
Yeah.
We're All Going to the World's Fair is yeah, it's controversial because like critically, it's got like a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, and
Hmm.
then the fan meter or popcornometer or whatever it's called is like 28%.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's like one of the biggest disparities in um kind of how it was received, I think, that you're going to get. But I really loved it because it's very contained in kind of like a Skinamarink sort of way. I don't know if you saw that
Yeah.
one as well, but it's kind of all
Hmm.
like, yeah. Um, but it's very like creepy pasta adjacent. And again, as someone who grew up kind of like looking up like what's the scariest thing I can read today and whatever on the internet, like it really spoke to me like as kind of just how like how much can I like scratch this like scabby itch until like I've like oh I went too far,
Hmm.
and I would do that like on a on a very like frequent basis growing up. So for that reason, yeah, it really spoke to me. Now the script is not available online for this one. I'd love to read it. I've read I Saw the TV Glow, so if anyone has any kind of way to legally or otherwise get me that screenplay, I would be very grateful. But yeah, that's going to be my 2020s pick.
Great. I actually, it's been on my list for a while after seeing I Saw the TV Glow because everyone, yeah, I gotta check that out. Is it like scary?
I wouldn't say it's like scary, scary. It's more of a midsummer kind of like unnerving
Okay.
sort of
Got it.
scary, but it's I mean it's yeah, scarier than I Saw the TV Glow, certainly.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, like this is a hard one because we've talked about like I like Barbarian a lot, kind of for some of the
Mhm.
swings it takes with like structure, but
Yeah.
for me, like I think Talk to Me is like the best film scene of like the 2000. Like it's so simple because like there's
Yep.
horror, but there's also like the horror of watching teenagers make bad decisions. And like you're just like there's so much suspense because you're just sitting there watching these scenes and you're just like, please just go home. Just like
Yeah.
go home, stop doing what you're doing. Like, please, like just go home to your parents, and they just won't do it. But then also like I wouldn't either when I was a teenager because you're an idiot and like you were just like egging each other on and like like just briefly like the plot is like it's in Australia, there's this hand and like if you hold this hand you can speak to the dead and like if you say like I let you in you get briefly possessed by the dead. You can only hold the hand for like I think 50 seconds before they can stay permanently and like it's also like I guess when you do it, it's like a little bit of a high. But like these kids just keep pushing the envelope and pushing the rules again and again and again, and shit happens. And like it's such a like simple like idea done so well. So I just think it's like such a great film.
That is third on my kind of list for the 2020s. I agree. I think it's a fantastic script. It's very contained. All of the practical effects that they use in this, and again, as a The Thing fan, you appreciate some practical effects, but all of the practical effects are like really, really good. Like
Yeah.
really unnerving in a way that I'm like, if this was done digitally, I don't think I would feel as. I don't think I'd feel this in my gut the same way.
Yeah.
And yeah, really contained. It's like a classic, like teenagers, and instead of like a lake house, it's like they're just like what is it? Like it's a classroom or like a
Yeah, it's just like
what?
the Australian suburb. So they're just like being teenagers, like hanging out in everyone's
Yeah,
parents' basement, like when their
sure.
parents aren't home, and like kind of, yeah,
Yeah. So that's really interesting that for both of us, then the 2020s has been kind of like a meditation on like bad decisions as teenagers that we made. And again,
Yeah,
you're kind of saying like, I was stupid as a kid, and I'm saying like I'd look at stuff I didn't want to see just to make
yeah,
me feel something. So that's really interesting that that's the direction that it seems to be going, or at least the ones that are resonating with us is kind of like a nostalgia for like a time where there's maybe less consequences for making
yeah.
bad decisions than where we are now. So that's really very, very interesting. I don't know who wins the 2020s. I'll give it to you. I think that's
Nah, I
fair.
gotta
Uh,
watch
it was third
We're
on
Going
my
to the
list
World
anyway,
Fair.
and mine's only got 28% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I think that for the sake of anyone getting mad at me in the comments, look, might not be your cup of tea, but I love that one. And there we have it, I guess. So, I mean, look, that's a history of horror. So, I've just written an article, Woody, which all of the screenplays that I've mentioned today are going to be available to download on that article. So, anyone reading it or watching at home or listening at home, check out the link in the description for my history of horror. There's 13 downloadable screenplays. Yeah, everything I mentioned minus We're All Going to the World's Fair, plus a few extra. Like I've got The Fly in there as well. That's one I didn't mention. Yeah, The Wicker Man, which I kind of gave a shout out to. So some great screenplays. I think I'm a big believer that the best way to get better as a writer is to read a lot. And yeah, there's 13 kind of 1943 right up to Weapons. 2025 is on there, so you can read the entire history of kind of horror in the movie theater. And oh yeah, there's no better way I think than to get better. So, Woody, this has been terrific fun. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on.
Of course,
I'd
thank
like
you.
to wish you the best of luck with your writing career, guys.
Thank you.
Anyone out there looking for a horror movie to make or invest in, go buy Woody's screenplay because my God, I need to see it made. It's called Live, Laugh, Love. And just while setting up, I don't know if you'll be able to say this. I picked up a pencil because I like to have something to wave around, and it says "Live, Laugh, Love" on it. I don't know if you can
Oh,
see that or
great.
not, but
Nice.
that scared me genuinely after having read your screenplay. So, I mean, that's a testament to kind of how it stays with you. So,
Thanks, man.
um, yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Any parting nuggets of wisdom for us?
No, no, thank you for having me. This has been so much fun. And like, yeah, I got a ton of films I need to catch up on now.
Yeah, absolutely. Likewise, I think that there's some I gotta revisit on there at least if I not see them for the first time. So yeah, well, hopefully we can have you back on next Halloween or sometime sooner if there's anything else going on in the horror sphere before then. But best of luck to you and everyone at home. Thanks for watching, and I shall see you soon.